If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday Address. As New Black Media Appreciation Month storms on, we give thanks. Thanks that we are united in purpose. Thanks that we demand and support intelligent black discourse. Thanks that we believe in starting our days with the truth. But most of all, we thank the powers that be that we aren't a bunch of bootlicks. And that brings me to Marc Lamont Shill. Still struggling for relevance, I see, and still failing to get it. Seems like he's trying to do his own lunk-headed version of Shannon Sharpe and Bill Maher's After Hours content, only without the personality of Shannon Sharpe, though he does have much of the obnoxiousness of Bill Maher. I guess Al Jazeera must have run out of bird seed or whatever they were using to pay him with. He's just trying to do some clout chasing, and because these bootlicking morons have no original ideas, they all resort to the exact same crap. He's recycling the roly-poly Tiffany Cross-Eyes routine of attacking people in the new black media. He's trying to see if he can get some internet beefing going with himself at the center of it, just like roly-poly occasionally tried to do. Other than being irrelevant, there's about one other thing that Shill and the now defunct A-Dunce bowel movement have in common. They both were hoping Byron Allen would offer them a job. Now, because nobody's thought about the A-Dunce movement in so long, I'm sure a lot of you have forgotten that the A-Dunce clowns were the ones saying that Byron Allen's Comcast lawsuit was the most important court case in black American history, and that if he didn't win, and if black people didn't turn out to support him, well, it would be back to the cotton fields for us. You had everyone from myself to Judge Joe Brown to Brother Tariq saying that that wasn't true at all, and that this was just more self-serving maneuvers by Byron Allen. People tried to argue against us, but reality always gets the last word. So here we are, years later, Byron Allen has moved on to the next nuisance suit, and the next, and the next, and the next. Whatever happened to that lawsuit against Comcast don't matter, because it never did. It was all about him. Meanwhile, he allegedly bought the now-deceased Black News Channel. I hear the going price was $4.95 in the bargain bin at Dollar General. Say, did Marc Lamont Shill used to work for Black News Channel? I still can't believe that his star power and his unbelievable charisma and intellectual acumen failed to capture an audience. What could possibly have gone wrong? For those who are curious, Shill was doing the same crap on Black News Channel that you see him doing here, repping everybody else's interests except for black people. And I'll bet Shill waits by the phone every night like a desperate teenage girl, hoping that Byron Allen will call and say that he's got a regular job again. This is the reason that we don't respect these safe, non-threatening Negroes who the white media props up and puts in front of us. Because they don't respect the black community. They just glom onto and push these fringe people all the time because they want to show their would-be white media paymasters that they can lead the black community around by the nose. See, that's the job that the Marc Lamont Shills and the Roly-Poly Martins and the Tiffany Cross-Eyes and others have. Their job is to show the white media that they can mislead us. Only they can't, because nobody's fooled. Nobody's trying to follow a stuttering fool like Shill. And on a side note, why is it these clowns like Roly-Poly and Marc Lamont Shill are always stuttering? I guess having a speech impediment is a requisite to get a job in the white media, huh? Like Stephen Smith and others, you got Shill trying to build his own online presence, but he's not building it by attempting to get with the program with the black media. He's not doing it by trying to build up the black community. He's doing it by doing what these people always do, and that is they try to find the fastest, most expedient route to being able to ingratiate themselves with these white producers and these white media executives, anything to burnish their resume, and they know exactly what those creeps want to see. See them attacking the black community, see them attacking black folks who are actually standing for something. But when that little hustle falls through, because it always does, they always try to rebrand themselves, reinvent themselves. They start trying to put on the kente cloth and talking a little bit like us, talking a little bit like a faux radical. Yeah, Don Lemon and Candace Owens aren't the only ones trying to slither their way back into the black community's good graces. When these chumps get dumped by their white benefactors, they always try to crawl back to the people, to the grassroots. But we're not letting it happen. And especially when you consider that the A-Dunce movement attempted to try to hijack reparations and the white media was helping them to do it. reparations has been misused by numerous groups over the last 4 decades alone in order to magnify their own importance, or, as in the case of Cobra and John Conyers, as a phony means to con black people into thinking that maybe, just maybe, these corrupt and crumbling black misleaders actually think about doing something to benefit us. That maybe in the back of their empty little heads, there was an afterthought about finally doing justice toward black America. That's the game that they try to pull. Oh, we're so radical. Look, we're talking about reparations. They're not actually doing anything about it, though. They just sit there and say, there's a bill that's going to be allowed to languish in Congress. It's not going anywhere because it's not meant to. And even if it did, it's simply a suggestion to consider talking about reparations. That is stall on top of stall on top of stall. It took the black media to uncover that little con game. And that was the beginning of the end for the A-Dunce bowel movement. Everyone tries to use and abuse us to promote their own interests, to promote themselves. And in too many cases, the people who are doing this look like us. White power picks these tools, props them up, makes them prominent, but the difference between the past and today is that now there's a robust and active black media presence calling these shills out. White power can give them a platform. The New York Times and CBS can give them a sloppy kiss masquerading as a so-called news piece. But thanks to you, white power cannot give them legitimacy. And without legitimacy, they're always going to be desperately trying to get your attention and then not understanding why you refuse to give it. See, you're the reason Marc Lamont Shill can't come back to the black community. You're the reason A-Dunce is defunct. Those of us who are the mouthpieces for the new black media, we can call these agents out all we want, but the only reason that they've been reduced to irrelevance is because you decided that's what should happen. See, we're not the black media. You are. Marc Lamont Shill is not some sort of iconoclast going against the grain. He's just another shameless self-promoter. About his only claim to fame, if it can be called that, is that he gave some windblown speech at the UN sticking up for the Palestinians. Now, with the condition that black Americans are in, if he wanted to show real courage, he would have stood before the UN and said, it's time for reparations now. You see, it's easy to get out there and to stomp for the Palestinians because white liberals see the Palestinians as one of their pet issues. A lot of these Negroes on cable do this. So it's easy to do that. But to stand before the world and say that black Americans are owed and it's time to bring sanctions against the U.S., he could have done that, but he didn't. And even if he had, the white left wouldn't have looked at him as some sort of hero. They wouldn't have been trying to big this guy up just because he stuck up for one of their pet issues. He was virtue signaling as a way to burnish his own resume. This is supposed to be his calling card. I went to the UN and I stuck up, not for black people, but for folks on the other side of the world who aren't even American citizens. As I've said time and again, if you truly want to change the unconditional, non-stop torrent of support that the United States gives to Israel, the most efficient and best way to do that would be to have an empowered black population in the United States, one that would be able to make it clear we need to be taking care of what's going on in these black cities. We need to be putting the money, the billions of dollars that's going to the four corners of the globe, put them into these black towns. You're going to need power for that. You empower black Americans and you would starve the quote-unquote global colonial project of these Western powers, which the United States is the tip of the spear of. But Marc Lamont Shill doesn't focus on that. Instead, we don't need to be talking about black people at all. See, they never make it a point to put these politicians on the hot seat for things regarding black people. They never make it a point to repeatedly confront them on reparations or to hold them to account for not passing laws to finally punish the police for their rampant murders and lawlessness. See, they know what the sanctioned targets are. None of them has ever been fired for daring to stand up for black people because they know not to do it. Oh, they give a few insincere mutterings here and there, but that's it. It doesn't amount to anything, and they know it, so it's a safe thing for them to do. It's okay to attack the black grassroots, to attack reparations, like Joke Reed did on her show when he had her stupid little guest on there to say anybody who mentions reparations is a Russian bot. And of course, we know about what Tiffany Cross-Eyes has done, but they know what the safe targets are. They know what the sanctioned targets are. But if you decide you're going to go running your mouth about non-black constituencies, then they're going to put you out the door. You'll recall that's what happened with Roly Poly. That's what happened with Don Lemonade. That's what happened with Tiffany Cross-Eyes. And that's what happened with Marc Lamont Shill. Of course, these guys, they never learn because part of being a bootlick is you think you're a genius, but you're really the slowest person in the room. And I don't know about you, but we shouldn't be paying attention to slow. Shill and A-Dunce, they don't belong on a podcast. They belong in a museum. Artifacts from a bygone era, when white power used to be able to send out its little hand-picked puppets to insinuate themselves amongst us and attempt to lead us astray. But it ain't working. The dinosaurs may not necessarily be in a museum exhibit, but we have definitely rendered them obsolete. And for that, we should all be grateful. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Maurice Soul, Arlaz, Wali Bilal, Melvin Munoz, and Neil Safir. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.